Hey guys, it's Mike, piddling around the yard again, and today I'm just working on some flower beds, kind of cleaning up after the winter, getting things cleaned up and ready out here. But I'm also gonna show you a little bit of what I'm doing in this one flower bed. It's a new flower bed I'm trying to establish, and I'm calling this one my Hosta garden. All right, so here's what I'm doing. I've got this one hosta here. This is a new one that I got. It's called a king size hosta. Now the leaves on this thing are about as big as my head when it's fully mature, but it takes 3 to 5 years for it to mature. So I got to keep it alive that long because I only got one. So we'll see how that works out. But just a quick thing about when I plant my plants, whenever I plant new plants, whether I grow them myself from seed or whether I purchase plants, these were purchased. These are actually from Brex, so online. Came straight from Holland, according to them. But basically, so I'm going to dig a hole here where this hosta is going to go, because this says to dig this and plant it just below the soil level. And so if I look at this plant, I'm going to dump out the little peat moss that came into the hole. So if I look at this, I want the tip of the plant, probably it's already started growing, so I'm going to allow the tip of the plant to just stick out the top of the soil. So I got to make sure that the hole is dug deep enough for that, because I don't want the roots to be too bunched up. I want them to kind of spread so they have room to actually grow and get nutrients from different places. I don't want to have to get all the nutrients from one spot. So I want to kind of spread these roots out. So got that in. But before I put that in, now this is a planting mixture that I make. Now every time I make planting mixture, it's probably a little bit different, but it's basically, now this is a cocoa coir base, and then I add in some general fertilizer and all-purpose fertilizer. I also added some Osmocote, which is a slow release fertilizer. And then I also add a lot of bone meal. So the bone meal helps root growth, and especially for a hosta plant, it spreads by roots. So I want to make sure it has nice healthy roots. So I put a lot of bone meal in here. And then I added some azomite and some humic acid, and that just helps. That's to treat the soil itself. I'm trying to treat the soil so I can get the soil microbes in there. I want to be able to start attracting worms to this area. This area underneath these trees, this new bed that I established it last year. I kind of covered it with 4 to 6 inches of wood chips. And I didn't really plant a lot into it. I planted that hosta and stuff last fall. But I haven't planted. This is the first year I'm trying to plant, because I wanted the wood chips to kind of break down and try to treat this soil. I've never had anything planted or growing here except these trees. This has been a very dense tree area in front of my house, and I've lived here more than 20 years, and I've never planted anything in this spot. So, in my trying to adjust the soil to make it good enough to grow in, seemed to have worked, because the soil doesn't look too bad now that the wood chips have broken down. But I made my little planting mix, and I'm going to throw a good handful of my planting mix into this hole, and then I'm going to bury this plant. I'm going to spread these roots out, and then I'm going to put the original soil back in to cover up the roots. And I just want the tip of this thing to kind of be sticking out. It's going to barely have the tip sticking out, but that is the idea when planting this. So just barely having the tip sticking out, and that plant is now in the ground. Now I'll water this in pretty thorough. I have a lot of stuff that I've been planting and moving. I moved all this liriope over here the other day, so I've got to get this all watered in. You'll see it looks kind of brownish and looks like it's dying, but don't worry, a liriope doesn't die. That's that one. Now that's my king size hosta, and I'll put a little label on these. I like to label my plants so I know what's growing where. So I'll put that on there a little bit later. Now this one here, it's another hosta. It's called a lipstick blonde. So I'm gonna put it, I'm gonna move it. I'm gonna have to adjust my camera real quick, but I'm gonna plant it a little bit further over here. So you'll notice I got the king size hosta here. It is a good 4 feet from my azalea bush. Then there's a king size hosta. I'm going to go another 4 feet over here, and I'm going to put this lipstick blonde hosta in over here and try to start it growing. There's only one plant of that one as well, so I want to make sure that I'm planting in an area that's going to be kind of protected. It's going to be kind of protected from deer, and it's going to be I'll be able to monitor it and make sure it's going to grow. Let me adjust the camera real quick. All right, so kind of doing the same thing over here. I'm going to dig a little hole. I want to make sure I wanted to center this in the bed. So, all right, I'm going to put this right about here in the ground. And again, I want to dig it deep enough down and make the hole kind of big enough that I can spread the roots around, and so it's not real cramped in there. There's one plant in here. Let's see. Let me see the size of this one. And all the peat moss in there, that'll help the soil as well. We have this is a really hard clay soil here, so the original soil was terrible. It's starting to not look too bad with the wood chip mulch starting to break down into it and attracting more worms. I have run into worms that I've been digging around up here, so that's a good sign, because I know there were very few, if not no, worms in this area previously. So again, I'm going to plant this one in here so that just the very tip of this plant, because it is starting to already start growing, so I'm going to have the little tip of it sticking out just so I kind of know where it's at. And that's that. So I've got my king size and my lipstick blonde hosta planted here. Got my azalea. I need to cut a couple more because I'm going to put a couple more azaleas over here. But that's what I got for right now. But while we're at it, let's go over here and plant a couple of, I've got the yellow dead nettles to plant, and I'm going to dig up some purple ones. So I'm going to show you digging those up and moving those over and kind of getting my nettle garden going over here. All right, hold on. So here we are. I'm over here now in the area where I'm putting the nettle garden. You'll see this is my other azalea bush. I am going to have a couple more over here so that in between these trees is going to be mostly azalea bushes. There are some hosta. I just put this hosta in over here. There's another variety of hosta that's coming up right in the front, just starting to come up. There's some hosta coming up over here. Now back here behind me, these are where some lilies are in the back of this. But up in the front here, around this rock, this is where I'm kind of trying to get a whole bunch of different nettles growing. So I've got these pink nettles, and these we bought locally from a nursery. So I planted them, and they're starting to do pretty good. They're a pink nettle. And then a friend of mine, I hope it's okay, I mentioned Siri. No, not the one from the internet. Siri gave me some plants, and this is a yellow nettle. I don't know what this is. I guess it's part of it, but so this is a yellow nettle here. I'm going to put this around here as well. I don't know if there was another one. I think there was another one. Anyway, she gave me a bunch of plants, so I believe this could be the same thing. And then there's hydrangea. Or is that a hydrangea as well? These are hydrangeas. Oh, no, these are hydrangeas. Okay, I gotta plant those. All right, so these hydrangeas are gonna go over in my hydrangea garden. So we'll do that separately. But look at this. This is a yellow nettle. So this will look nice once I get this back in the ground and it starts perking up a little bit. I'm going to plant this right behind this rock. Nettles do well in kind of shaded areas. So if you have when you have a shaded area that you want to plant out, nettles are good for shaded areas. Hostas love shaded areas, so they're always good. But if you've got deer problems, you got to watch out. So you're really going to have to protect the hostas if you're going to plant those. Now these nettles, looks like the root structure is a little bit deeper. So I'm going to try to dig down further, loosen this up further down and get that a little deeper. But again, I'm going to put my planting mixture down in there, all the way down in there, before I shove this in the hole. And then I will backfill with the original soil. Look at that. What is that? I got a creepy crawly there. So backfill that with that soil. I'm going to put a little bit more of my planting mix with the fertilizer on top and then cover it with the mulch. And there we go. And the yellow nettle's kind of hiding out right here behind this rock. But I'm going to get some more of my purple nettles. Now I'm going to go over and dig some of those up and bring them back up here and continue to plant them in and around this area to try to get more nettles established right in here, because I think it'll look cool. Nettles are an early flower. They're one of the first flowers that come up in the spring. Pollinators love them. So you always hear that, oh, dandelions, the first ones. No, nettles are actually. So nettles come up. I don't have any dandelions in my yard, and I got plenty of these nettles everywhere. There's another one I'm going to show you that comes up in my yard every spring. It's one of the first flowers that come out. It just grows in the yard because I don't weed treat my grass. I let my grass grow as it is. And so this is technically a weed, but it's a cool little flower that I see every year, and I kind of like it. I wish it would spread more than it does. But here, let me show you that one real quick. Here, and this kind of grows. I don't know what. I'm going to have to look this up and see what this is. Here it is. It's these little, they're like purplish flowers that grow in the ground. They're growing kind of everywhere. They just grow kind of everywhere. They're really small. I mean, they're probably as big as your fingernail. But you can see I've got a bunch of them here. I've got a whole bunch of them over here that are growing. So these little flowers, they just come up everywhere, and I just let them. I'm not going to treat the grass with weed killer. I am going to fertilize to try to get the grass to grow better. But if those weeds are going to grow, they're going to grow because I don't care. My grass I wouldn't have any greenery in my front yard if I didn't have weeds. So that's what I'm kind of doing today. I'm trying to clean this bed up. You can see, yeah. Now you see here's the all the liriope that I planted, that I moved, and you can see here's a good example, right? This is all new growth coming up, and all the old stuff is kind of dying off, and that's what happens. The old stuff dies off, and the new stuff comes up. So if you look down in there, there's lots of new growth starting to come up out of there. So the liriope will survive, and new growth will stick up out of the ground. Here's a bunch of it here. There's even a dead nettle there that kind of got transplanted. So that's what this bed's going to look like when it's done. Now up here around this tree, check this out. These are a stilbe, I don't know how you say that, but they're supposed to be a good shade plant as well. You can see how they look. I mean, they get tall, and they are deer resistant, and they love shade. So even better, because that's what I need up here. Is I need some deer resistant and shade plants. The good thing, what I've found with deer resistant plants, is that if a plant is deer resistant, not only do the deer stay away from it, but they kind of stay away from the plants that are around it. So that's why I have that theory about planting daffodils around a lot of the plants that I'm trying to protect, because it does seem to help with the voles and the deer in keeping them kind of protected so the deer don't eat them all up. All right, let's go dig up some dead nettles. So I'm over in an area where this is actually going to be what I'm calling my salad garden, because I'm going to plant. It's an area that gets shaded part of the day, but it gets a lot of sun, and I created these beds, and I'm going to be planting. This is where I plant my lettuce and spinach, and stuff that likes a little bit of shade. They don't like the direct heat of the sun all the time. So some of the early crops, some carrots, stuff like that, I'm going to be planting up here. So, but what is here now, as I'm getting ready to clean this bed out to start planting, is all of this purple dead nettle. It's all over in here. So I'm just going to dig some clumps of this stuff up and just move it. And hopefully, now this stuff will go to seed. This is what happens to it. It goes to seed, and then it reseeds itself. I think it also spreads through rhizomes, so there's no way I'm going to get rid of this stuff. And I don't care if it grows, because it kind of grows early. Like I said, it's an early spring, comes up very early spring, even while it's still cold out, before the frost. It'll grow, it'll flower. It's got flowers now, and it's going to attract pollinators. It's attracting some ants right now. But this, I want to move it over. I want to move some of it over in the other area where I'm trying to create like a nettles garden. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to dig up clumps of this and move it and hope it survives. If it's technically a weed, so it probably will survive. But then again, now that I want to move it, it'll probably die. But we'll see how that works. So I'm just going to dig up clumps, basically like this. Dig up a clump of it. I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to dig up another clump of it over here. I'm just going to dig all these clumps up. So I got to go get my wheelbarrow. But I think just by digging up clumps of this, put those aside, and then, I will take these up. I'm going to go get my wheelbarrow, load them up, and take them up to the garden where I'm going to plant them. All right, let's go. Where you at, Diamond Rio? So I got the stuff here in my wheelbarrow, and I brought it over. So I got these clumps of nettles that I'm going to put around. I just got to figure out how I'm going to put these around. Now there's probably other weeds in and amongst this. It looks like, I don't even know what these are. I have to look at those as well. I got my app. I'll take a look at those and see what those are. But that's okay. I mean, anything that I can get to grow up in this area, I mean, there's nothing growing here. So I'm going to spread these clumps out and kind of position them around to see what it's going to look like. These there. So by just digging up the clumps, I should get a lot of the roots in addition, and it should be able to survive the transplant. I'll put one in front of that tree. And it should be good. So a couple little clumps here. Let's see where we're going to stuff these. Let's put one over here. And then, actually, I'm going to stick this one behind this, or maybe on this side. Over here, behind the tree. That one over there behind the tree. But you see, I also have these. There's some more plants that I got from a friend. It's a type of vine. I actually have a bunch of these, but hey, free plants are free plants. I need to dig up some of my own, though, to move those. I've got plenty of those. So let's get a little bit better shot of this. I haven't planted them yet. So you can see there's going to be the pink nettles, more pink nettles here. This is hosta that's coming up, and in between the pink nettles, the yellow nettles, and the purple nettles, all around kind of in this area. Like I said, I didn't plant a lot over here because this is where the astilbe is going to be kind of surrounding this tree. So I'm trying to keep the nettles close to the front here and then over in there. I may spread some more over here when I move my, when I tear this down, tear my teacup down, I will end up moving something over there. So, but this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get this garden established up here, get some greenery rather than, I mean, last year, all I had was the wood chips. So it was all brown in here. We actually had a ground bee. There's a bumblebee nest in the ground. Not the yellow jackets. It was actually the bumblebees, the black and yellow ground bees. It was pretty neat. I used to sit and watch them. But we're going to have a lot more greenery. I do have a lot of volunteer hosta, which I am confused by that. I didn't know that hosta would grow, especially so far away from where I actually planted it. It came up in areas that I did plant, but it also came up in areas I didn't plant, and they were far away from the original plants. So that was kind of interesting. Hey guys, so I hope that this video of building this flower bed and establishing the new flower bed was entertaining, at least, if not informative. But got it all planted out and watered in, and it's gonna look good. Hopefully, I want to see what it's gonna look like later in the spring, early summer, as everything really starts to get growing and maybe get some blooms on some of these flowers. All right, so just want to remind you, go ahead and like and subscribe to the videos, tell your friends, and just keep piddling around the yard. See you later.